So rewind to 1948. 1948, I'm born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And if you are a Jewish kid born in Philly, after the war, you were raised in a very potent combination of rabbinic Judaism and political Zionism. The two cannot be separated. Unfortunately, this is still largely due to the efforts of the State of Israel, its PR campaign, and the cooperation of the Jewish establishment here. That's very, very much true now. Judaism and Zionism is supposed to be the same thing. This is very, very much true when I was growing up, especially given my family background, which is that, you know, half the family came from there. And, I mean, it's in the liturgy. We would, in synagogue, and there would often be an Israeli flag on the pulpit next to the American flag. The liturgy says, God bless and protect the state of Israel, not Zion, not Jerusalem, the state of Israel, the first flowering of our redemption. So Jewish history has come to fruition. And God's right in there. And the reality of Israel partook of the Jewish narrative that I was brought up in. I mean, you know, Judaism doesn't have a lot of dogma, but it has a lot of history. I'm sure many of you, most of you have probably been to a Passover Seder. It's all about history. And it takes the history from the Exodus, you know, right through Jewish history. In every age, a tyrant rises up to oppress us, and the Lord God stretches out his hand and redeems us. This is Jewish history. So it was wonderful being raised as a Jew. And I love my tradition. And the dark side of it was, we are in danger. There's a scary, murderous world out there. It's the non-Jews, it's the Goyim. And if we don't keep ourselves protected, we will be lost. It's really in our DNA. I certainly got it straight from my grandmother, who was from Europe, for whom non-Jews were a drunken, murderous rabble. And by the way, we're a lot better than them anyway. And watch out. So when I went to Israel, to start Palestine, and stood in front of that 25-foot-high concrete barrier for the first time, I was shocked and horrified, as anyone is when they see it, when they stand up close to it. But also, it really, really, my insides turned over because I recognized what that wall was about. That wall was inside me. I was brought up with that wall. That is a physical manifestation of the existential reality of growing up Jewish. And it's something that we carry with us, and I think it's a problem, by the way, if you haven't figured that out. I witnessed the occupation. It's horrible. It completely turned me around. I learned the other 1948 narrative. I learned that, you know, a lot of people talk about the occupation as being the big evil. We have to end the occupation. The occupation was a tragic wrong turn that Israel took. The implication being, if we can just clean up this messy occupation, go back safely to our 1948 armistice lines, we'll have our Jewish state, everything will be fine. I know that's not true. What I discovered when I met the Palestinian people and when I learned, you know, the other 48 narrative, is that the occupation is a simple continuation of the ethnic cleansing that began in 1948 and was planned prior to that, and that continues to this day. So there's a fundamental problem with Israel as an ethnic nationalist project. A problem that threatens to destroy the security and the well-being and the human rights of the Jews who live in Israel, who deserve security and human rights and a government, you know, which is not doing to them what the Israeli government is doing to them. So I learned all of that. And I think what really turned me around was meeting the Palestinian people. I had been brought up again. There were always enemies out there. There was Pharaoh. There was Turkomada. There was Antiochus. There was Hitler. There was Nasser. So these Palestinians hate us. They're the enemy. They want to drive us into the sea. I met them, so it wasn't true. When I first went to Palestine and would meet Palestinians, I would always start off with full disclosure. I was a little nervous about this, right? Ana Yehudi, I'm Jewish, I just need to let you know. And the reaction would always be, well, yeah, what's your point? I mean, I know that. Let's go on, let's talk. But this is not so in Israel, with few exceptions. I mean, I would tell my family, I have a vast family there. My grandfather left the rest of his family there, and many of my cousins have emigrated. I would say I was going to Ramallah, I was going to Hebron, Bethlehem. They'd say, are you crazy? Nice to know you. I mean, they're animals. They hate us. They'll kill us. It's dangerous. And Israelis in general are raised with what I can only describe as a soul-killing racism. A story I really like to tell is I'm sitting with a Palestinian woman who's the head of an international NGO. She's a Muslim woman from Nablus. She works in Ramallah, but she lives in Jerusalem, in the northern part, which still has not been gobbled up by Israel. And she commutes from Jerusalem to Ramallah. And she has pretty good license plates, so she makes it back and forth okay every day. She has her 8-year-old daughter with her, and one day, just out of the blue, you know how 8-year-olds are, her daughter says to her, because if you take that road north from Jerusalem to Ramallah, that wall accompanies you the whole way along the road. Her daughter turns to her and says, Mommy, why do they make the Jews live behind that wall? And this kid, she doesn't know that she's supposed to be the prisoner, that she's the dispossessed one, but she gets it. And Pepe writes about that. This is a good book. You should read this book. It's a hard read. I had to keep putting it down because I couldn't take more than a chapter at a time reading the history of 1948. But he has these brilliant analytic chapters at the end, and one of them is called Fortress Israel. He's talking about his country and what has happened to